All right, dude. This is my, I guess, third now in-person podcast slash YouTube video. So to give you guys a little context, me and Cade have been up here in the Flattops for 8 days, eight
Yeah.
nights, almost 9 days.
Yeah.
And we've been guiding some hunters. We put in a few scouting days beforehand, and I figured I'd just interview Cade and I don't know, get his thoughts on this is where I've done a lot of my guiding, a lot of my elk hunting, and it's cool to just bring somebody in that's guided other places and kind of get their perspective on that and, you know, the differences and, I don't know, just thoughts on it. So what do you think, dude?
Yeah, the Flattop's an interesting place because it's something, obviously, like in the elk hunting world, I've had a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you hear a lot about the Flattops. You hear about Colorado, good things and bad things. We talk about like historical hunting and elk populations and density, and then obviously like hunter pressure as well. It's like a really interesting dynamic because I've spent so much of my guiding career hunting, you know, really remote stuff with pretty low hunting pressure.
Right.
And getting into a place like this, it's man, it really kind of hones. I feel like it could hone your guiding ability.
Oh, yeah.
Because like elk hunting is elk hunting and it's all fun. Like,
Yeah.
You could go hunt a private ranch where you could pass on 50 bulls a day and like that's a blast. Getting out here and kind of grinding is super rewarding in the same aspect. But I definitely think that if a guy takes his guiding ability seriously, he should come hunt a place like this.
Yeah, sure. Because it's like, the way I put it is, it's unique because it is, in my view, the world's best elk hunting habitat with probably the worst elk hunting management. It's basically a free-for-all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's this dynamic here where the elk are very unforgiving. But not just like their intuition from the pressure, but also the fact that they can go anywhere. Like right now, we got this much snow, which is irrelevant to them, and there's freaking habitat everywhere.
Yeah,
You know?
it's an incredible place because there's so much feed in the timber.
Yeah.
And then they're experiencing all that pressure, and so they're not coming out. Or then when they do come out, you've got really limited windows of opportunity, and you've totally got to capitalize on those short windows of opportunity. And I think that's totally a big aspect of that. Like when I talk about honing your guiding abilities, you've got to be able to make really decisive decisions when you're hunting stuff like this, and know that if elk are in a certain spot, there's a good chance that somebody else is already on their way to hunt them too.
Yeah, like they're gonna move. They're gonna be moving around.
Yeah.
And it's and we'll get into that a little bit, maybe with like some takeaways for the audience on things they could prepare for like this type of hunt. But it's very interesting to me. Like, to me, you know, Cade, this was a successful first rifle hunt, right? We killed some stuff. We killed a bear. We killed a bull. We saw elk, I think, every day.
Yeah, I mean, in the scheme of things, for like the amount of pressure, everything, I feel like we did really well because just about every hunter had an opportunity at bulls. And, we had it's just those limited little windows, right? We had 3 bulls at 173 yards, and it just didn't work out, because of the setup. It just, everything, it's just how it goes. And so I think that, it's kind of interesting because, like, one funny thing, and this is, I feel like, a good public land lesson for hunters.
Sure.
That came upon me this week is, we have 3 bulls come out into the meadow, and 2 of them are kind of sparring back and forth. And so we set up, and we've got an opportunity where these elk are at 173 yards, and we've got a clear shot at a smaller bull, and we've got a nice 6-point behind him.
Sure.
And so, I told the hunter, wait, let's wait for the 6-point. And just out of nowhere, they took off running down the hill. And it's funny because I've been thinking about it since, that it's like fundamentally for me, I don't love killing small bulls. I just don't feel great about it. In a place like this, if you have an opportunity on a bull, you're kind of crazy to not capitalize on that opportunity. But it's an interesting thing there where it's like, is that ethical or is it greedy?
Yeah.
And you have to take into account and like break that down. Like, am I being like, is it stupid? Is it ethical? Is it greedy? Like, you could call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's public land hunting. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this situation a little bit. Like my view on it, Cade, is so the first part of it is that, hey, this place is managed just to kill legal bulls. So they got a 4-point antler, your 4-point restriction. The guys are just going to kill legal bulls, right? Now, having said that, like the situation you're talking about, you've got a 4x4, a 5x5, and a nice 6x6, which people don't realize there are big bulls here. Like we saw big bulls this year, but they're not dumb, and they're typically in places where they're almost impossible to hunt. But back to your story, in that dynamic, I don't know that I would have made it, even though this is the type of guiding I've done where like you find a legal bull and you kill it. And I personally don't have any like ethical issue with that because that's how the place is managed. And if you don't kill it, somebody else is. You know what I mean? I'll just be that's the reality. And I know there's a debate we could have about that concept, but the situation you're talking about where you're watching a bigger bull and you're reading the mannerisms of them and there's no reason for them to leave, I don't think you made the wrong decision by having the hunter wait. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it could have flipped the other way. So it's very hard to, that's a tough one. But it is kind of quintessential of the flat tops. Like the idea of passing up a legal bull in the flat tops, people would look at you like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's a very different culture that way. But I think it comes down to, it's every bull here is hard to kill. It's even the small ones. So, that's just part of the deal for better or worse. I think that the bigger thing that or another concept that I'd love to hear your take on it is one thing about this type of hunt in the flat tops. There's a skill set that I don't talk about a lot, and that's just like even marginal opportunities you need to be able to take care of, or you need to be able to take advantage of. We could have probably if there's little opportunities. I'm not saying they were good opportunities. We could have easily been packing out of here with 3 or 4 bulls if we killed every bull that we saw.
Right.
And we had like little snap things. I'm not knocking the guys. They were very well prepared physically, very well prepared. They they took shooting courses. Like they were on top of it, but there's still a little element of like, man, it makes a big difference in the actual final result. And on the flip side of it, if these guys hadn't done the prep that they had done, we could be leaving here with nothing.
Right.
Even though we found bulls every day. You know what I mean? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a hard earned lesson for a lot of guys because, like you said, our guys are really well prepared. But I feel like a lot of guys, especially, guys that are first time elk hunters, beginner elk hunters, things like that, they don't really have that like killer instinct. And it's crazy because you can go and you can take the shooting courses and you can be physically fit and you can be prepared and you can be mentally prepared for the hunt. But it really does take reps to have that killer instinct. And there's an argument to be made there about, the value of guided hunting because you have a guy that's willing to make those decisive decisions. But for sure, that's something that I think even well-trained and well-prepared guys struggle with, that you're in a situation where, maybe you're trying to set up and get like a really comfortable shot for like a sub 200 yard, opportunity. And it's like, man, you kind of just got to make it happen. Yeah. You got to make it happen, whether it be off a tree or a backpack or whatever, but it's got to be like instantaneous because those moments are so fleeting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like a lot of guys that are successful elk hunters, they definitely have learned those lessons, but it's a repetition thing. Right?
Yeah, it just takes like exposure to it. And part of it is the elk here, they are smarter. They will not tolerate, anywhere you go elk hunting, if an elk wins you, it's leaving. Here, elk sees you, it's fucking leaving. It knows exactly what a hunter is. Like it doesn't need to debate it. Like it knows what a hunter is, it's leaving. Every group of these bachelor bulls that we're hunting has been shot at. I guarantee it. So they know exactly what a human is. And so it's unforgiving that way in the sense that you got to take advantage of those little opportunities. But dude, the plateaus are like that too. So we're on a plateau and it makes it that way because they can get away from you so quick. You know, even when they're not scared, they just vanish.
Right, and you can be really close to elk up here and have no clue that they're there because they're just fed into that. Or
talk about that dynamic in some of the hunts that you did.
The
last few days.
Like traditionally in a lot of mountain elk hunting, you're looking at steep environment where you're glassing across canyons, or you're looking up hillsides, things like that. Hunting the flat tops here on the plateau, maximum distance that you're going to see is 400 yards is a pretty, long line of visibility. And so you have this constant battle of, are the elk on the other side of the strip of trees that I'm on? Because all the strips of trees are so thin, and it's just a ton of safety corridors for them to travel. Sure. And like you said, they're getting shot at, they're getting bounced around, they're sharp. They're trying to stay hidden. They're also trying to do what elk do. So, yeah, it makes it very challenging in the fact that you almost have to stand hunt a little bit to be able to hunt these meadows. And then the whole time you're sitting there, you're wondering, are they 400 yards from me, but I can't see them?
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's a cool element, man, because if you get to the edge of a plateau, and we're hunting early season, so, there's not a ton of snow up here. A lot of the elk are still on the top. And you get to the edge of that plateau and you look to like other sections of the plateau in the distance, you're glassing miles, you're going to find elk. But then you have to make in your mind like, okay, there's elk over there, but is there sign here? Can I get a feel for, am I already in the elk? You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like this constant debate. And I don't know, tell us about you guys did some epic hauls.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because it's like a silly concept of like, we have elk at home. Yeah, like we have elk here, but I can see elk over there. Yeah. And so it's really tempting.
That matters, dude.
Yeah, it does matter.
That you actually know where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. So like we were really tempted. We I made a good haul over. It's like 4.5 miles or something like that. Down off the plateau, across the canyon, up onto the other side of the plateau. And anyway, so we had the elk figured out where they were feeding, figured out where they were bedding. We got in and we got to like 190. Yeah. And we sat, but the elk didn't come out until maybe 15 minutes before dark. I mean, we had like 10 minutes of shooting light to get it done. And and the bull, when he finally came down, it was past legal shooting light. Yeah. And so we had to let him slide. And then the following morning, we're in the same spot. And that, they went to bed. I mean, the minute that we glassed them up and we could see them, we made a move, got in position. But by the time we were in shooting range, they were all in the trees, and it was just kind of a fleeting opportunity and then gone again. So
it's crazy, dude, because that's like they get hunted so much. You're looking at elk that are in a hard spot, has hard winds, and they're in kind of a hellhole. Not everybody can see them. You found them from over here. And yet when you get over there, they still basically are in the trees at light.
Yeah, they've their whole defense mechanism is to just they've evolved to be outside of shooting hours. Yeah, it's like they know like a little buzzer goes off and they're like, oh, it's past shooting light, we can come out.
All right, guys, in some of my content, you're gonna see that I've been using this chest holster from Invader Concepts. This is with my 10mm. I also use it with my Glock 19 and even a PMR 30. I'm gonna do a bunch of content here in the next couple months on that around bear defense. It should be interesting. It looks a little awkward to have your gun under your bino harness, but if you test out all the different variations, it is the best and you have it on you all the time. I do have a discount code. It's CliffG and it's for 10% off. Go check them out.
Yeah, it's a really interesting.
And I dwell on that too, man. A lot with this week I saw other hunters that we were competing with, walking back to the trailhead at 5:30.
I know.
It's like, why did you hike all the way up here, dude? You're not going to see any, you're literally you blew all that energy and you're not even elk hunting,
Yeah, it's crazy because you can waste a ton of energy and never see an elk out here if you aren't super persistent because realistically, I mean, you always have a chance during midday, but it's like you're elk hunting here for 30 minutes a day. You realistically have 30 minutes of elk hunting a day up here. Yeah. And I think that there's something to be said about that too. When it comes to the dynamic of elk hunting in general and especially the social media boost that elk hunting has right now and all that and how relevant it is, but when people think of inch quality and big bulls and this and that, and it's like, man, if you kill a 5x5 up here, that is a way bigger trophy for most people than killing any 350 plus bull on some private ranch somewhere, right? Because you are going to grind it out for this elk. I mean, to kill any bull up here, you are going to be hunting hard maybe every day of the hunt.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it's funny because I'm Flattops centric because I spend so much of my time here, Cade, so I'm biased. But I know some of the guides that have worked for me over the years and have hunted this and developed their skill sets, it's for sure a place that it's what do they say? Steel, sharpen steel, or whatever. But a hard place makes people good at hunting.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? And you go other places after you hunt a place like this a lot. Maybe it's a draw tag or whatever, and you realize like, oh, I'm pretty good at this because I did it somewhere very difficult. And I'm not saying the Flattops is the only place, but I do think there's value in that, like really learning and building your skill set in a place that that they're hard. They're hard to kill.
100%. And I think that a lot of guys should definitely like appreciate that more, because I see people, maybe they've never killed just what would be considered a massive bull elk,
Sure,
but they've been hunting places like this, and it's like, man, you might not have a giant bull, but it's not because you're a poor elk hunter.
Yeah.
If you can come out here and be consistently successful, you're good at what you do.
Yeah,
and
if find an elk and all that. That's the thing. I think it's an expectation thing too, Cade. Like, even though people can look at the success rates, I mean, the success rate here, they publish it as like 14% or something like that. I guarantee you it's not that. It's less than 10%. And so people look at that statistic, but it doesn't register until they go.
Right.
And what you realize is there's a big relative difference. Like, I mean, this week, and this is going to make me sound like an egomaniac, but we ran into guys that have been hunting for 5 days and they haven't seen an elk.
Right.
Me and you found elk every day.
Yeah, every day.
So there is, like, you can fill that gap, but I think you have to find value in that. You can't get stuck in this, well, we're not killing big bulls, or we may not even be killing bulls. We suck at this. You probably don't suck at it. You know what I mean? It's like it takes a lot to
right. You're just hunting on like
here.
expert mode, right? Like this is really hard. And that's the thing is, like, for me, when you hunt a place like this, a shot opportunity I count as a success. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because like, when you're in a position where we're at, where you have multiple bulls throughout the week that like, it didn't work out, but maybe it could have.
Sure.
And you're within shooting range, and for whatever reason it doesn't work out. Like, that's a success, because however many of these guys, the majority of these other guys that are out here that didn't see anything at all week, they didn't even see an elk. So it's like, you were close enough. You got to count that as a success. And I hate that. I feel like some hunters, especially a lot of DIY guys, they like get really in their head about that, and they get frustrated and they're like, man, I haven't killed anything. But if you had some close calls, like, you're doing good. Because it doesn't always work out. It's not always going to work out. And especially in a place like this where you're trying to capitalize on fleeting opportunities. If you had an opportunity, if you created an opportunity for yourself, like, good job, pat yourself on the back, because you earned what you got.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's a lot of it's just, I mean, back to one of the original thoughts that we were getting into there. It's like the practical aspect of literally like, oh, there's an elk at 100 yards, kaboom, dead, is huge here.
Right.
You know what I mean? The simplicity of just killing shit when it comes out is a big deal up here in the results.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of times, there's some old school families in the Flattops that some of them are my old clients, some of them are guys that just packed in here on their own. They have very high success rates. One of those reasons is because they know the country. The other reason is just for that. They keep shit simple. Yep. I mean, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm a major proponent of that. Like, I do a lot with slings, and obviously I'm a scout rifle guy, and I just really like quick, short, handy rifles.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much to be said about your success in elk hunting, especially in places like this, with being able to snap shoot.
Yeah.
And snap shooting as a practice has kind of gone to the wayside.
Yeah.
And this is a hot take, but I think that over the years, I see a lot of guys with really expensive, like tricer tripods and stuff like that.
Sure.
And if a guy spent as much in ammunition snap shooting as he spent on the tripod, he'd probably be able to capitalize on a lot more opportunities.
Yeah.
Because when you see those elk, you come around the corner of the meadow, and it's a short little spot, and there's a bull at 100 yards, and his instantaneous thought is to run from you. If you can get that rifle up before he's in the timber, you've got him. I mean, you've got a large vital zone, and a lot more people are capable of hitting that kind of target offhand at 100 yards if they practice. But people just don't practice.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like buying the whole shooting system, the rest system is easy because you just click a couple buttons, But even within that, like you have to really work on make sure you're getting your bipod off quick, your tripod off quick. Jordan, who shot that big bear this week with me, he got his bipod out quick. It was all good. Like he obviously practiced with it, and that's great. But I think my personal opinion is I think when you're ambush hunting, some of the sitting on stands and stuff, the tripods and bipods are great. I think doing the walk around, even the spot and stock stuff in this country where you get into tight little holes. I'm more and more thinking, man, like you gotta know how to just. You got to take advantage of like what you're saying, offhand stuff, partially supported, jumping down on your backpack and shooting. You got to know how to do that stuff. It'll like quadruple your success rate.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I would be willing to bet that the majority of hunters out here that are continuously successful have a very simple approach to just taking the shot, getting the pack off, dropping down on it, offhand, using a tree, whatever. But I think that I think what happens is, for a lot of guys, this is my personal opinion, but guys spend a lot of money on shooting supports, on tripods and bipods and things like that, and they're very stable, but they take time to set up, and they just maybe don't realize how detrimental that time is to their opportunity, number one, and then number two, when you've invested that much in a piece of gear, you want to use it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and then they don't separate when each rest is actually applicable.
Right.
Like when the bull's out at 80 yards, just flop your pack down and blast him, or just shoot him, if you feel comfortable doing that offhanded.
Right.
Don't get out the bipod. The bipod is for when you're sitting on the knob, watching the meadow.
Right.
And you got to separate that.
Right.
Right. And I think that's hard. I think that's hard for guys, and I think that's a good takeaway, man. We should talk about like the ethics of it a little bit too. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Bull walking, fast walking at 80 yards versus bull 600 yards away. Do you have thoughts on that?
So it's an interesting thing, because for me personally, I train a lot offhand. I train a lot shooting, but I train a lot shooting while I'm moving, things like that. It's just something that I enjoy. I think it's very fun. I think that doesn't have like a huge backing in the training industry, because it's hard to do, right? And it's like it's frustrating. It's not easy.
Dude, I think there's also ethical bias. I think for sure. I think guys that anytime shooting at him, regardless of the range, they feel like it's a bad decision.
Right, and I'm getting there. But I think so I think that's an interesting thing, is that because of the training deficit, it becomes like a big ethical dilemma. Right, where people, they're like, well, I wouldn't shoot at a moving animal at 100 yards, because they just don't feel like it's ethical. But it's very widely accepted to lay down nowadays and shoot at an animal at 600-800 yards. Some people are shooting 1,000 yards at animals, and it's like the amount of variables that come in when you're shooting long distance, when you're looking at wind, and you're looking at just even everything down to like even just like slight variation in your velocity of cartridge and all this and that, and elevation and blah blah blah. I mean, there's so many different variables, but because it's something that's widely accepted to get to practice,
right,
and people go to schools for it and things like that, and it's not really deemed unethical. There's a lot of arguments about it. People say like, well, your ethics don't correlate to my ability or whatever, but I think I think it works the same for shooting offhand. And for me personally, as somebody I just love shooting in all aspects, I feel 10 times more confident shooting a moving elk at 100 yards than I do shooting a standing elk at 600.
Yeah, sure. And I don't think that's like discussed much enough.
Yeah, I don't think it is, because there are things outside of my ability when I get out to distance where bad wind calls, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of different things that come into play, but at short distance like that, like any deviation that my rifle has, that my optic has, anything like that, it's so marginal that it doesn't matter. Right? So it comes down literally to the training aspect of can you do it? Can you hit an 8-inch target at 100 yards? And I mean, for the majority of people's times with rifles, that's how hunting was done. And it was done, I mean, obviously very successfully. It's how we blazed across the West.
But your point about training is interesting. Not a lot of people train that kind of. Everybody now is training long range, which I'm sure makes guys better in certain types of scenarios. But the stuff we're talking about, coming around a tree line in a 400 yard shoot of a meadow or whatever, and right when you pop out, you see an elk grazing, but he also sees you and he starts moving, and he's only 100 yards away from you. Nobody trains for that.
Right.
But if you do train for it, and that bull, he's trotting the other way, he's not leaving that meadow. Like, he's going to be dead in that meadow. Right. If you've done a little training for it. Whereas if you're shooting at him from 600 yards when he's even bedded or up great, doesn't know you're there, you wound him, he's in the trees.
Right.
You might have a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's just I think a lot of it honestly spawns from like the judgmental side of it.
Yeah.
Where people are just uncomfortable getting out and trying to shoot offhand and missing. People don't like missing. Yeah, you're gonna miss when you start.
Yeah.
But that's another strange thing too, because people don't mind that with a bow.
Yeah.
When you get out with your bow, and you suck when you start, right?
Yeah.
And you're missing and this and that, and you're like, oh well, I'll get better.
Right.
But for some reason with a rifle, people get really self-conscious about it.
I think rifles are more prone nowadays to people wanting to control every variable. Because that's kind of what the long range mentality is.
Right.
Like, we're going to be analytical about every variable, and every shot's going to be perfect. And then when guys actually start doing it in the field, they realize that that's not reality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But the kind of, and I'm not knocking the training world, but it's just a symptom of it. People leave that kind of training thinking that, oh, everything's going to be perfect.
Right.
And it's
and that kind of like opens up the idea of, is it a cultural thing, right? Like, or maybe not cultural, but like personality type.
Yeah.
Like, people that want to be in control of all these things and are very analytical, maybe are drawn more to that rifle shooting and drawn more to the long range shooting. Whereas people that are more in control of themselves, or maybe not in control, but more analytical about their body and like their natural ergonomics and all that, are probably more drawn to the bow.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it that way until just now. But I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But I think that it can be applied to the rifle, right? I mean, when we shoot with a bow, we're thinking about our follow through, and we're thinking about our stability and sights and aiming, and everything is like this. We're like this system, right?
Yeah.
And we can be one with a rifle just like we can with a bow.
Right.
And I feel like I have like a weird place in the world for that, because I very much love hunting with a recurve, but I also love iron sights hunting.
Yeah.
And I think that they're really not all that far apart, because it's kind of becoming one with your weapon.
Yeah.
You know, and it just being an extension of yourself. And I don't know, I feel like I get a lot of joy out of that.
Yeah, sure.
But as far as like the success goes, I think about how many elk I've killed, how many deer, I mean just animals in general, a lot, that I've killed at extremely close, like bow range distances with a rifle.
Guys, biltong, okay? I have been obsessed with this stuff for 3 or 4 years. Ever since I got on a keto, carnivore, paleo-esque type of diet, I've had a hard time finding healthy snacks. Biltong is a great option, particularly the slabs that have this fat on the side. That's where your energy is if you're a fat burner like me. Super simple ingredients in this, guys. Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. Compare that to your gas station jerky. A great snack in the backcountry or just day to day. Biltong Depot is a huge supporter of my content. Go to their website, biltongdepot.com. Use my code CliffGray, CLIFFGRAY at checkout for 10% off and to support this content. Thanks, guys.
It's all about those like creating opportunities. You know, one of my bulls, like actually in one of my hunt films, I couldn't get a shot at him very far, so I snuck up on him and I shot him offhand at 40 yards.
Yeah.
You know, I ran up to him and shot him with the rifle.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, that's just not even something that it's like not even in their thought process.
Yeah, but it's missed, like, and it reflects on this type of hunting. It's missed opportunity. It's like that. You could be perfectly ethical about it and kill that bull at 50 yards. When you're huffing and puffing and you've been, like we had a situation, it's kind of hilarious, but we bumped some bulls right on the edge of timber, and I sprinted to that meadow and like baseball slid into that meadow, and a very hard situation for relatively new hunters to take advantage of. I totally understand that, but if a guy was there with iron sights, in a different world, he could have laid out both those bulls right there.
Right.
They would have never left that meadow. I guarantee it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the other part of it. People don't realize that there is an opportunity sometimes do that, to use that skill set.
Right, and you just get trapped inside your box. And I feel like it's easy as a hunter to get trapped inside your box, and then not to want to push yourself. If you don't push yourself outside those comfortable zones in your training, you're never going to be able to push yourself outside those uncomfortable zones out here. And that's, like you said, that really is the difference between punching a tag and not in some situations.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a good skill set to have. But do you got any other takeaways from the hunt, man, or anything you learned or you thought skills that applied or anything like that?
I think my biggest takeaway, my biggest thing that I would try to project to an audience that's watching this is, if you've never hunted a place like this, you should go hunt a place like this.
Yeah.
If you've only ever hunted places like this, you should go hunt somewhere like remote wilderness. I mean, because if you trap yourself and you limit yourself to one area, one style of hunting, then that's all that you ever get. But I think both sides, it can be really rewarding. It can be really rewarding for a guy that's maybe hunted easier to hunt elk to come out here and grind it out and have fun and experience something totally different, especially hunting the plateau up here.
Yeah, sure.
It's very different. It's amazing elk habitat. It's hard hunting.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a really rewarding experience. And then on the opposite end, like if you've been hunting, high pressure areas like this where the elk hunting's hard, maybe you want to kill a big bull, man, you should put in for points somewhere super remote.
No, and I think that's a great point, dude. Like, you should go get 4 points and go do a general hunt in Wyoming, or you should go. I mean, if you have the ability, go hunt a ranch that has high density. I hate to say it. Well, I shouldn't say I hate to say it, but it's a dynamic that I think gets lost. If you hunt like this all the time, there is a part of elk hunting that you don't learn. Right. Because you're not used to high density elk. You're not used to certain ways of hunting elk because you're stuck in this. So you can go actually to somewhere that's, an quote easier hunt and actually learn a shitload.
Yeah, a ton. And I mean, this place, the elk aren't acting like elk, right? I mean, they still want to be.
They don't pattern. Yeah,
right.
They're like mini pattern.
Right.
But they
they want to be elk, but they're getting so much pressure. They're forced to live in their own way, in their own little style. And I definitely agree with you there, because you can go places and learn like, oh man, this is how elk would act. And there's something to be said about a lot of, especially private ranches and places like that, limited quota areas where the elk are acting more like elk naturally would.
Yeah.
And it kind of does make them. It doesn't. I wouldn't say it makes them easier to hunt, but it makes their your ability to pattern different. It makes their lifestyle is different. So your approach to hunting is different, and it's just a great experience because it's different.
Well, and in a sense, you're also learning more about the species.
Yeah.
Because here, I mean, you're spot on. They're not living like elk typically do.
No.
And
you don't get to interact with them. You don't get to watch them much.
Yeah.
You don't know what elk do if you're hunting a place like this.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing them for this much amount of time.
Yeah, you know what elk do when they get the shit hunted out of them.
Yeah.
That's what you know when you're hunting the Flattops.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that's what you learn, and that's what you get really good at. But there's a lot of other skill sets that you got to go to Wyoming. You got to go to private ranches, to get that experience if you want it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great takeaway, man. Well, Cade, I enjoyed hunting with you, man.
Yeah, it was great, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
good deal.
it.
Thanks, man.
If you enjoyed this content, do me a huge favor. Subscribe on whatever platform you consume it on. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever works for you guys. Everything else is on my website, pursuitwithcliff.com. Go there and it's going to be very apparent to you that I work my ass off just to not have a real job. All the hunts I guide, all the seminars I put on, all the unique experiences I offer, and the membership site, all the details are there.